Hey there, I am Barb Higgins, and this is 1,000 Tiny Steps. In this podcast, I share my stories of love, loss, triumph, and tragedy as I continue to retrace my steps and ponder what led to the death of my daughter Molly. By doing so, I hope to not only help myself, but to bring purpose and possibility to those who listen. If you are ready to laugh, cry, shake your head in disbelief, then tie, buckle, lace up, or slip on your shoes and join me as we begin our 1,000 Tiny Steps.
Hey everybody, Barb Higgins here, welcoming you to season 10, yay! So it's episode 162. Hot dang, that's a lot of episodes. And so I'm going to quickly sort of summarize season 9 a little bit and talk about why I don't have any more episodes around the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And then we'll get right into the topic of season 10. So I wanted to have an episode where I had guests or information from people, answers from people around their experiences with the 12 steps, meaning active addicts and alcoholics. And I have several friends in my life that are absolutely committed to AA or NA and the principles of the 12 steps. And even anonymously, this was a really personal question for their answer to just be floating around out there. And every single person I asked, one was relatively new in their sobriety, maybe a year and a half, and another was like 10 years in, and another still like 25. All of them said that everything they did to share the message of AA and to share their experience, strength, and hope could not be detrimental to them. Not only that, it had to have a positive outcome. And while one might just think, oh, well, sharing your experiences, like in a podcast, was helpful, the pressure that might put on an individual was not helpful. And all of them felt this way. And it really does lend itself to the beauty of the anonymity of AA, that it isn't about keeping it secret because you'll be judged. That might be part of it, but it's more keeping it yours so that your experience doesn't get tainted by the judgments and thoughts of others. And one of the things all of them were concerned about in being that specific was that if they listened to the podcast and I got it wrong, they would feel that it was not accurate, even though no one would know who I was talking about. And also that, sometimes comments on a thread can be really nasty. And none of these people really wanted to look at comments to something they said in a negative way. Pretty amazing answer. So I am done with my 14 episode season of the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I will say I've received a ton of great feedback about the season. I'm actually hooking up with a friend tomorrow to talk about this dance of sobriety that we live. I've spent so much time talking about, and Richard Rohr talked about in Breathing Underwater, how so much of life lives in the gray. But Alcoholics Anonymous and any sort of recovery program where you're an absolute addict is not gray at all. It's black and white. You either use or you don't. And this can be overwhelming, especially for somebody who's into the throes of addiction. So I was just talking yesterday about this all or nothing with sobriety. I was interviewed on a podcast called Life Shifts. This amazing guy named Matt Gilhooly does a podcast, and I should not be so gender judgmental, not judgmental, but, men and women are different. Boys and girls are different, and there's nothing wrong with different. What's wrong is when we start to pigeonhole people into the things that make them different. So if a tomboy girl or an effeminate boy can be that way without being judged for not being who they are. And so I often say that women are so much better at the grief process and communicating than men. And I actually don't think there are too many men or women or any variety in between that would disagree with me. So when I get on a podcast that's tender and emotional and at a real feeling level, and it's led by a guy who gets right in there, it's a nice surprise to me. And of course, at 61, I was the very tail end of the baby boomer generation, where there were strict roles for boys and girls and men and women. So I think sometimes I'm still openly surprised because it wasn't what I was trained to see as a child necessarily. So I had this amazing experience with this guy, Matt, talking about, of course, Molly's death and Jack's birth. I also was very honest with him about my drug addiction after Molly died. So those of you who know me, you don't know me at all. And I talk very openly about it, which I imagine could be helpful and harmful. It lends itself to one of the reasons these people in recovery were uncomfortable sharing some of their most intimate moments with me, because it can be threatening to recovery and it can be difficult to not fear being judged. One of my life shifts that I shared in the podcast was that since Molly's death and all that happened with me and Roy, there's a big part of me that just give a shit now. Like, I don't care. You want to hate me? Go right ahead. I say that and then I'll stay up all night worrying because someone hates me. But I do have a much bigger sense of saying what I'm going to say anyway and not worrying about it. So I was talking yesterday with him about how I would tell some of my health students that I could quit anytime. I can quit anytime, no problem. And I could. And I think it's one of my pieces of AA that's unique is that I've never been all or nothing, completely sober, completely alcoholic, that I have functioned in the middle area most of my alcohol career. Even when I was in the throes of my most flagrant abuses of alcohol, I was a binge drinker. I was on a full scholarship to college. I couldn't do outdoor track and drink every night. I had to quit. We had times where we were told, you will not drink until such and such a date. And we didn't because I got a free education. So I'm going to do what I'm told. And I talked about how good I am at that. Sign up for a challenge, do all these different things and I can quit as long as I have an end in sight. And my drug addiction, which I talked to him about, if I think too much about the circumstances of my life at the time that I began using and the person I used with and what was happening to me with Molly's death and in the end of Roy, it can be very, very easy to go down a rabbit hole. Does that rabbit hole ever make me want to call up and ask to get high? No. It terrifies me. And I think that the more distance I built between myself and that life has allowed the fear to really put itself inside of me. So this is one of the things that season 9 in talking about the 12 steps has done for me. It's really, really given me the opportunity to step outside of myself and look in from the lens of AA and from addiction and alcoholism. I will say that the months and years after Molly's death, I drank like a fish and I did not care that I was drinking like a fish. And I don't have that either. I can remember days where it would be 11 in the morning and I'd be counting the minutes until I could drink. And sometimes I would just go and take a shot and then carry on with my day because I couldn't manage. And I can't imagine feeling like that now. I have a lot of situational, geographical triggers. It's very hard for me to have an afternoon or an evening here at home with Kenny and not want to drink because it's just such a behavior for us that it's just the habit. The habit of doing this all the time is hard. When Kenny's away or when I'm away, I don't even think about alcohol. It's amazing to me how this is. Other piece of Alcoholics Anonymous for me back in the day when I went in my late 20s was dealing with lying to yourself, presenting a false appearance, lying to others, being lied to, and responding to that. The 12 steps requires you to peel away every bit of lie that you have in you in regard to yourself and your reality and put them aside and just be true with yourself. And I remember distinctly really taking a look at when we were looking at our flaws, and our shortcomings as humans, that I relied on storytelling and either altering the truth or keeping pieces of it secret or changing it completely to feel safe and to maintain my public persona, Barb the athlete, Barb the straight A student, Barb the school teacher. And it was difficult for me to acknowledge the fact that there had been times in my life, really tragic times, that I would make up a story because it made me feel better. I'd share a memory and I'd make the memory completely different than what actually happened. No personal gain, no manipulation to get something, no trying to trick anybody, just trying to paint a picture of myself that I could live with. I've told this story before how when I was first really close friends with Amy and we run together all the time, and we talked about our addictive behavior. She was very willing to share, which I wouldn't share here, all of her psychological and emotional issues in her background. And she was very forthcoming with them. And so I was forthcoming with mine. And the number of times she would look at me and say, well, you admitted you were a compulsive liar. That's what you are. So how do I know you're telling the truth? And I'm like, no, what I shared with you was how much I fabricated my past when I was young because I didn't want people to know the real Barb. And that has stayed with me because another issue for me is when people believe things about me that aren't true. So all of this was in a discussion yesterday in this podcast interview that had nothing to do with my podcast or any of this. But I love when the universe just presents these things. It just blows my mind sometimes. So lying. So what I did was, any of you who follow me on social media will know that I just posted a lies you were told as a child, 3, 2, 1, go. And of course, the majority of them were silly ones and funny ones. I'm going to read through the whole list. I have many on my list here? Let's see. I have 49 lies, and some of them have more than one person gave that answer. So I got 75 responses on my Facebook page. But before I get into my list, there's lots of reasons people lie. And so I did my little Ask Siri and Google search and all of that kind of stuff. I came up with a whole list of reasons why people lie. So first of all, I want to define what is a lie. A lie is an intentionally false statement. You say something that you know is not true on purpose. The sky is green. Okay, well, maybe I'm colorblind and to me the sky is green, so maybe that's not a lie. My name is Susan. Hi, I'm Susan. Nice to meet you. That's a lie. My name is not Susan. So sometimes lies are just small like that, but in general, the basic definition is intentionally saying something that's false. It's a sentence or a thought that involves deception. It's founded on a mistaken impression. To tell a lie. I lied about where I was. So it can be a thing, a mistruth, and then you can do it. You can lie. It's an act in action. To present a false impression. And probably that was what I would do when I was in the throes of child abuse. I went to school every day just fine. I did what I was supposed to do. Had I acted the way I felt inside, I think I probably would have gotten help a lot sooner, but it wasn't in my nature to do so. I felt like I had to hold this false narrative together. So that's what a lie is. Truth. So truth, the initial definition of truth is the quality or state of being true. Okay, well, you can't use the word in your definition because what does that tell you? Okay, you're being true. What the hell does true mean? So true is something that is in accordance with reality or fact. Now, it doesn't mean truth and being true doesn't have wiggle room, but there comes a point where something is true or it's false. It's a fact or a belief that is accepted as true. And this is where the gray area comes in with lying and truth telling and the beauty of language. A friend of mine wrote a book called Anguished English, and it just goes into all the nuances of language. Richard Lederer, he actually just spoke here in Concord, and I couldn't go see him, which bummed me out. He was a parent in my childhood of my friend Annie. The truth is the quality or state of being true. You say something in accordance with reality or fact, and a lie is an intentionally false statement. So, okay, truth and lies, we have those. So, why do people lie? Okay, well, I'm sure as I say this, you all have a million reasons in your head why people lie, and they're all pretty basic reasons. To avoid consequences was the first on the list. So, it could be a positive consequence. Someone doesn't like the limelight, so they lie about who they are. Gosh, you look just like Taylor Swift. Oh, yeah, people tell me that all the time. And Taylor Swift walks away, right? So, I mean, that's an extreme example. But to avoid consequences, did you eat that cookie? No, I didn't eat that cookie because you don't want to get in trouble and not eat dinner and all that sort of thing. So to avoid a consequence, typically negative. To gain something. Yes, I have a ticket to get in. I just can't seem to find it. It's ticket number 153. Thank you. So you tell this lie to gain something or to fit into a group or to excuse a behavior, to protect themselves. Oh, the lies I told to protect myself. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Was I really protecting myself? Probably not, but I thought I was. And I thought I was protecting my younger siblings to protect others. So lies are a protective measure sometimes. To avoid hurting others. The number of things I kept from Kenny over the years, and the number of things he kept from me, quite frankly, we kept a lot of secrets from one another. At the end of the day, we would have done much better off to just done the hurting as it happened, rather than keeping secret about it and saving it all up, because then it was much worse when the truth finally came out about all of our lives. A coping mechanism. So this is where it gets into mental and emotional health. So you lie to sort of maintain a reality that threatens you somehow. So I think a lot of kidnap victims who develop the Stockholm syndrome, which is they become attached to their captors. They have to because their captor controls everything of their life. When they bathe, when they eat, where they poop and pee, all of it. What they wear, where they go. They develop a relationship with their captor that is based on nothing that is true. They say what they have to say to survive. They answer the questions in a way they know they need to answer the questions, whether or not they're true. To manipulate others. So this happens a lot in relationships. And this is where gaslighting can come in a little bit. And we'll talk about that in a minute. This makes my breath catch because as I look back on my childhood and I think of the things my mom and dad said to me, I'm not trying to make them look bad, but the things they said to me that weren't true, that were designed to maintain whatever semblance they thought was occurring in the house, or to maintain their ability to keep doing the things they were doing and seeing the people they were seeing. It's mind boggling sometimes to trick or abuse. So I can make a list of these behaviors in some of my more narcissistic type relationships. In my work with Carolina, she had me make a list of everyone I could remember knowing each year of my life. It was a long list, about 150 people, just done in like 20 minutes. And she had me circle people with narcissistic tendencies, and there were so many. I just am drawn to them, or they're drawn to me, and I get sucked in it, regardless of why I had this. And when I think about how often I was tricked and abused to be controlled, both socially, like with my friends and my friend groups, and then adults in my life and romantic relationships, Chris Rath. Anyway, to get needs met without consequence or concern for others. So this is in relationships where people will lie to maintain something that gets them what they want, to keep things the way they are. And that's just sort of a quote unquote normal level. We haven't gotten into real pathology yet. Then there's compulsive or pathological lying. And this is much more connected to a trauma or tough event or a mental illness. So there are people who lie for no reason at all. They often don't even know they're lying. So I always knew when I was speaking something that wasn't exactly true. And if I was lying to keep a secret or to protect myself or to maintain some sort of status quo, I absolutely knew I was being dishonest. And I'm not a super good liar, quite honestly. But there were times when, and I said in the beginning here, I remember when I was in fifth grade and I would tell a story. And maybe 80% of the story was just right, but I would fabricate a little bit and buff it up and make it bigger than it was. Why? Because it was how I maintained like an image I wanted to portray, right? So I remember it was this race when I was in high school called Bikini Cross Country Championships. And I was running super well. And we went down and I got food poisoning the night before. I threw up all night in the hotel. So when we went to the race the next day, I was a mess and I puked a million times, ended up dropping out of the race, or I finished like last. It was awful. And years later, like 20 years later, I'm at a bar at a track meet and I'm talking to some people that used to work in that organization for that race. I'm like, oh yeah, I ran the very first one, went to San Diego. I didn't go to San Diego. I dropped out of the qualifying race. Had I been healthy, I absolutely would have made it. And of course, these gentlemen had all the race results. So they're like, well, where are you? And so it was the one time that I actually said, you know what? I threw up and threw up and threw up and walked and didn't even finish. And, I just always wanted to go. And it was actually an interesting conversation. And we had a long talk, myself and these gentlemen, about me as an athlete and how I never felt like I made it. And it was better to fabricate a story that made me look better than I was. It's embarrassing to tell it now, all these years later. It was like 30 years ago that I told this story. People with narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder are the two most prolific liars. And these people tell their lies by accusing you of something they're lying to you about. So I know with Roy, he always thought I had all these boyfriends and was seeing all these people. It's like I lived here with Kenny and I had two kids. I don't live alone. I divorced Kenny. I was living this sort of lie here, sort of putting on the happy marriage thing here and then spending time with him. And it was this constant barrage of you're sleeping with people, you're sleeping with people, you're sleeping with people, and the name calling and everything. And in my, come to find out, sometimes really quite the opposite was true. I didn't have other relationships in my life, and he has had several, which is, they're all above board, all over his Facebook, so I'm not giving away some dirty secret. Narcissistic personality disorder is very, very consistent with lying to the people in their lives, sometimes just to hurt, sometimes to project onto the person they're lying to their own flaws and faults out of a huge sense of insecurity and low self-esteem. Borderline personality is the same way. It's a little bit more sociopathic. So it's much more across the board, not necessarily just in a relationship, but everywhere. But again, both the narcissists and the borderlines really want to control how their victims, quote unquote, feel about themselves. Lots of gaslighting here, which is lying with a purpose, or control the situation, and always to come out as either the victim or the hero in whatever the situation is. So, okay, wow, look at all these reasons people lie, right? Most people lie to avoid causing negative feelings, to stop a conflict, to escape hurt. And when I look at the significant lies I told, I've told in my life lies around Kenny, lies around drug using, lies around Roy, lies around, I'm not that big of a liar, so I don't know. Most any time I've told a lie, it's been attached to a major traumatic issue or event or reality for me. And low self-esteem, again, is often the cause. There is also times when we lie to protect others, or you lie to protect yourself. And that's sort of the two major things. So I'm lying to protect myself. I didn't steal that. No, I didn't steal that, because you don't want to get in trouble. I was on time. I wasn't late, right? And then sometimes to protect someone else. And that sometimes people will admit to things they didn't do to protect the person that did it. So, I don't know. I don't know what lie I would have to tell to protect Jack. This brings me to the next level of lying, which is secret keeping. Is keeping a secret lying. There's a lot of questions I don't answer around Jack's conception and birth and biology and how all that came to fruition. Everyone knows I grew him because there's all those pictures, and he was delivered at a hospital, and I feed him with my body. So he's clearly my biological child. I gave birth to him. But there are lots of rules and regulations around IVF and lots of judgment from others around IVF. So I keep it all to myself. Am I a liar? No, because I'm not outwardly saying something that's untrue. I'm simply saying, mind your business. The little web page I went on asking my good friend on the phone to tell me why people lie, secret keeping straddles. It straddles the line between privacy and autonomy and dishonesty and deception. So if you withhold information for a specific purpose that's like self-indulgent, or that could cause harm to the person you're withholding the information from, that would be considered a lie, like a dishonest lie, a lie by omission. Yeah, it says deliberately misrepresenting the truth by hiding facts is a lie by admission. Then we get into gaslighting. And gaslighting, that term came from a movie called The Gaslight. And it was about a husband that wanted to separate from his wife, but divorce wasn't acceptable. So he slowly drove her crazy. And the way he drove her crazy was by dimming the lights in the house. And he made all of the people that worked in the house go along with him. So he would dim the lights, the gaslit lamps, the gas lights in the house. And then when his wife would say, my gosh, it's so dark in here, we need to turn the lamps up, the husband would say, they're up as high as they go. It's not dark at all. All of the staff, the household staff would agree, no, it's light. Then the next night he had the lights on full blast. And she'd say, this is so much better. Can't you see the difference? This is different. And he would say, what are you talking about? It's no different. And so by slowly making her doubt the veracity of what she was seeing and the integrity of what she was seeing, she stopped being able to believe what she saw. You start to make someone shaky on what's true and what's not true. That's how the term gaslighting came to be. There are many ways that gaslighting is used. A very common way is politically. You have a Republican candidate and a Democratic candidate speaking about the same thing. And they pick and choose what to emphasize, how they emphasize it, how they use it to make you afraid, how they make you second guess your judgment. There's a lot of gaslighting in the medical community. There's a lot of gaslighting in all of the gender issues going on right now on both sides, which is alarming because it's just going to hurt everybody. And it's so hard to filter out what's true and what isn't. And when you're constantly being told in anything that what you think to be true isn't because I said it isn't, we start to have a very unstable reality. You can say you're the most honest person in the world, but chances are on any given day, if you really paid attention to every word that came out of your mouth, there might be some little fib or mistruth. Fibs, a little fib. Do you know what Santa's getting you for Christmas? No, I don't. I have no idea when, you bought all those presents. So you absolutely know. So, and this gets into some of the lies that we're told as kids by the grown-ups in our lives. I have some funny ones. So that was all my, why do we lie? As the season progresses, today is going to be funny lies we're told as kids, but I'll go into some specific examples for myself. And then I'm going to get into lies we've told. And again, keeping the initial season sort of lighthearted and funny. And then get into lies that society tells. And so I'm hoping to have great engagement for my listeners along with stories. And as always, I was told some lies that were devastating. And we'll have those episodes too, because I think that's just part of the whole story. I went on my Facebook and I asked everybody, I need some lies that you were told as a kid. As I look through these, I can see why these myths were perpetuated. And most of them came out of fear for safety of kids and wanted to maintain some method of control. So a very common one was like, if you have the internal light of the car on at night when you're driving, you'll get pulled over and get a ticket that it's illegal. Oh my gosh, I had that one told to me. Definitely having the inside light on in the car makes it a little more difficult for the driver to see outside, but not impossible. And it's not against the law. But I think a lot of drivers told that to make the kids fall asleep, to not allow them to horse around, who knows, to control behavior in the car. I had like 4 people say that one. Watermelon seeds will grow in your stomach if you eat them. I was told that one too. If you've ever eaten blueberries or corn, they come right out. You eat them on Monday and you poop them out on Tuesday. You know that watermelon seeds aren't going to spend any time in your stomach. So that was a good one. Another one is you can't swim for 30 minutes after you eat. The number of times I ate at the beach and all the good waves we're having, and I wanted to go in the water, and my mother made me wait. So this was a digestive issue. And you might get a cramp. You're more likely to get a cramp. Well, so what you get a cramp? You get out of the water. So yeah, that was another one that you couldn't swim for 30 minutes after you ate. So those are safety ones, or just, this is one my grandmother told me all the time. If you eat too many pickles or olives, your blood will dry up. Now, pickles and olives are definitely very, very salty, but you're not going to dry up your blood unless you never drank water again. Lots of them had to do with food, which is interesting to me. So McDonald's cheeseburgers are made of worms. This was one that someone gave me. So that was obviously a way to prevent your kids from wanting to eat junk food. It might not be made of anything much, maybe worms are even healthier, but to say, nope, they're made of worms, you don't want to eat that. That's kind of funny. 2 other ones came to mind. Tongue sandwiches are not really cow's tongue. So if you're eating tongue, it's a tongue. I don't know what animal, but there are people that eat tongue meat. And then liver, it's just a new kind of steak. So organ meat, liver isn't meat, it's an organ, it's a liver. People cook it and eat it, incredibly high in iron, obviously. It was much more commonly eaten in my mother's generation, like the early baby boomers. And it's because there weren't all this plethora of vitamins, or all this processed food. People actually ate food to be healthy back then, not to fill up their tummies. And food actually helped you be healthy back then. In a way, it doesn't now, unless you're careful. So yeah, don't just eat this. It's a new kind of steak. And of course, it's liver, which is disgusting. When I worked at Weeks as a waitress, we had liver and onions, and all the old people came in and ordered that. It's funny because I'm old now, but I will never order liver and onions. Tongue sandwiches, no thanks. Beef jerky is made of skunk's tails. Well, some jerky does smell really weird or taste kind of off, but skunk's tails? No, I don't think so. It's funny. Orange peels are poisonous. So this created a really funny conversation. My friend Ashley put that one on there, that their parents told her orange peels were poisonous. That's where most of the nutrition is. If you can slice an orange in a way that you can eat the orange and the peel together, you're getting the full nutrition from the orange. So like in a cocktail where you have a thin orange slice and the peel is still there, eat the peel, because the peel is where so many vitamins are, specifically the white part that you tend to pull off when you eat the orange. But Bethany and Ashley joked around about that, how funny it was to find out that was a big fat lie. Brown cows give chocolate milk. That's kind of funny. Another one for food or swallowing. If you swallow gum, it stays in your stomach for 7 years, or it stays in there forever, or it plugs up your bum when you try to poop it out. Those are all examples I got from people, which I think is funny. If you tip a cow, the milk will leak out of its nose. Okay. Some of these just kind of crack me up. I'm doing the food ones right now. I'll go back to some others. Too much ketchup will turn your toenails black. I had never heard that. I do know ketchup is now full of sugar and corn syrup, so we don't even have it in our house anymore. Jack has never had ketchup on his French fries ever. Warm water and sugar will cure your hiccups. Well, I don't know. Maybe it will. I don't know. I mean, sugar water. At least they're not saying urine will cure your hiccups and making you drink that. Black pepper, too much black pepper will put hair in your chest. So I do know like strong, spicy foods. Oh, eat that, you grow hair in your chest. Is sort of a common saying. Coffee stunts your growth. So caffeine is actually a growth stunter in growing children. Like huge amounts of caffeine can cause your growth to be stunted. Nervous system stimulants like caffeine can do that. My brother was on Ritalin, tons of Ritalin, way too much as a child, and it stunted his growth terribly. Once he went off it, he grew, luckily for him. He went off it before puberty, so it didn't permanently affect him. So many drugs prevent things from happening to you, can really be damaging in the process of going from child to grown up. So coffee itself doesn't stunt your growth, but if you drink 17 pots a day at age 8, it might. If you don't brush your teeth, bugs will live there. So that could potentially be true. Probably not in upper middle class white America. I think you would never get to the point of having bugs live in your mouth. That was another big conversation. Another one that involved Bethany, my friend Bethany. A lot of the funny stories and funny answers came from her and her siblings and her kids, which makes me laugh. Your Halloween candy got lost. I don't know what happened to it. Yeah, that's a common one. I'm lucky. In my house, we had no limits on it. My mother, we put it in a bowl and I could eat 3 days after Halloween, my candy was gone. My friend Suzanne was only allowed to eat a piece a day, which was great, but it lasted forever. I don't know why your family would want it. Like, eat it and get it over with and be done with it. I do know my mother would go through it and, take out stuff that she thought I shouldn't have. But it was gone. I just ate it all. It was gone in a couple of days. So, and I think I'll just do that with Jack. Like, I don't want him to throw up, but I also don't need to parcel out the candy for the next 6 weeks. If you chew on your tongue, it will fall off. So lots of body manipulation rumors. If you play with yourself, it'll fall off. That was one that was given a couple of times. Pregnant ladies have big bellies because they ate a lot of watermelon seeds. So there's watermelons growing in their bellies, not babies. That was another watermelon one. So when I look at these, some of them are funny and amusing, but all of them were really done to sort of control in a jovial way the behavior of a child. Is it negative and bad? I don't know. When I think of how I parented Gracie and Molly, I never made issues around food to trick them into eating anything. I would often make them eat healthy food before junk food just so that they had healthy food in their stomach first. So I definitely did manipulate things for them so that they would eat what I wanted them to eat or eat healthy. But I certainly never told them this. Toes would turn black if they ate too much ketchup. But again, I think it's just ways that we control kids to keep them healthy and safe. Some other ones come along with things that we tell our kids around holidays, like Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and all of this. Hopefully no young kids are listening. But what I often said to Gracie and Molly, up until the year Molly died, so they were 13 and 15, I just said, no Easter, the Easter Bunny won't come if you don't put your Easter trees out. And they put them out. And I just said to them, I like the magic of it. I like the magic of it. You don't have to believe it, but if you don't believe it, it won't happen because I like the magic of it. And I also feel that when you can embrace the spirit of magic, magical things happen. So there were times that I was somehow able to get a present for them that I didn't think would happen. And so that present was from Santa because the fact that it existed was magical. So those were a lot of those lies you were told as kids, that all these things were real. And then there are people who are hardcore atheists who feel that anything to do with any religion is a lie. I will say lots of religious teachings and cultish type religions absolutely manipulate the truth and lie to keep the parishioners, the congregants, or the cult members attached. It's psychologically devastating. Is that general religion? No. I think there's a lot of good in religion. Churches can do wonderful things. But I do feel at high levels and intense levels of any religion, the truth can be manipulated to control the masses. And I think that's, this comes up a lot on what does the Bible really say about things? Well, first of all, you have to be Christian and believe that every word of the Bible is true as it's written. Several people contributed to writing the Bible, so you have to believe the people that wrote those things, that where they got that information is where they say from the word of God, and that somehow God's word is true. So much goes into calling that true that it's very, very understandable and easy for people to feel lied to by the Bible. Women are supposed to be silent. I am a Bible breaker, my goodness. So anyway, a lot of the religious ones, I just don't think there's enough evidence that it's true for it to be a lie. Does that make sense? But a lot of them were, those kinds of things. And politicians will use, in America anyway, Christianity as a means of pushing a political agenda by saying we have to follow God or whatever. So an interesting, birds' bones are hollow, and that's why they don't get electrified on the wire. I don't know why birds don't get electrocuted on the wire. I think not all wires are live, and I think a live wire might electrocute a bird, but I thought that was kind of an interesting one. This is a good one. The lake is closed. So this came from a girl I know whose family used to go every summer to a lake house. And rather than saying, okay, you have to come in, I'm saying, no, you can't go swimming anymore. The mother would say, the lake is closed. It closes at 7. We're not allowed to go in. So if other people were in the lake, they were breaking the law and they could get in trouble. The lake is closed. So I thought that was funny. Gracie, my sweet little daughter, said, Mom, you lied to me and said Build-A-Bears cost like $100. You can get a Build-A-Bear for $20. And I pointed out to Gracie that the $20 Build-A-Bear was what you bought off the shelf. It was little. She never went home with a basic $20 Build-A-Bear. Her Build-A-Bears were, in fact, extremely expensive, which she, of course, acknowledged. And she got called out quite a bit on that one by Bethany, saying, oh, yeah, when did you ever let your mother buy you a basic Build-A-Bear? But it felt like a lie to her. That noise you heard in the basement is a monster. He's watching your behavior. Okay, so it was a washing machine that was off kilter, right? And I look back to Santa and how he has a naughty list and he's watching everything you do and he's going to know. I think you can have the magic of Santa in your house without using Santa. To me, that's no different than Jesus will be pissed at you and won't let you into heaven if you ever commit a sin. I think that's just generally manipulation. I think that's lying. Oh, so another body one. If you cross your eyes, they'll stay that way. If you're frowning and the wind blows, your face will get stuck in that position. So like, don't cross your eyes because they'll stay crossed forever. That would suck. I was told all of those things. I was absolutely told those things that you shouldn't cross your eyes because they'll stay crossed. Oh, another body one. This little girl was told if she played with her belly button too much, her butt would fall off because it was an invisible attachment inside your tummy that held your butt onto your body. Okay. She must have played with her belly button a lot. Maybe she had a little lint in there. Another body one, if you play with that loose spot in your mouth where a tooth fell out, a tooth will never grow back in. If you don't play with it, a gold tooth will grow in. So the sad thing is if that actually stopped a child from playing with their, putting their tongue in the gaping hole where the tooth used to be, and just a regular tooth grew in, the lie is exposed. So sometimes it just makes me laugh. Don't step on a crack, you'll break your mother's back. So that was more like a little rhyme. However, I had a woman share a story where she stepped on the crack and got all worried about it. And years later, her mother fell and broke her back. And oh my gosh, so she always felt like it's because she stepped on the crack. Poor thing. Like 5 people had that one. I had a woman who grew up in a family that had a lot of addiction. As a child, she was told, don't you ever do drugs? Because if we think you are and we have to drug test you, you have to drink your pee. And whatever color the whites of your eyes turn will tell us what drug you were taking. And she believed that all the way through high school. I don't think it stopped her from trying drugs, but she didn't want to get caught because she didn't want to drink her pee. Yuck. Another behavior one is if you're naughty, a warden from the prison will come, or a warden from YDC, which is the youth kids jail, will come and take you away. They know when you're bad, or will call them and tell them. I remember Kenny's mother got really mad at him when he was a little boy, and they were driving by a prison that was near his house, and she pulled over, made him get out of the car, and drove away. And he was like 10 years old or 8 years old. He just stood there, like freaked out, like she left me here at this prison. Of course, she drove around the block and came back and got him, but he never forgot it. If you tell a lie, a dragonfly will sew your lips together. Well, I'm just getting a long nose like Pinocchio. Yeah, keep trying. So you're lying to your kid so that they don't lie. Toads give you warts. I believe that all growing up, frogs and toads will give you warts. So warts are just a variation of herpes virus under your skin. There are so many variations of herpes. We all think of STD herpes, but not all wart or pimple or fever blister or whatever is genital herpes. A lot of them are these other different forms. But I was told that, but it didn't stop me from touching them. TV will make you cross-eyed or make you go blind. We were told that one too. Probably it's not healthy to sit so close with something so bright, but I don't know that it will make you go cross-eyed. It's kind of an interesting one. If you tell a lie, your tongue will turn black. Okay, so all that child has to do is tell 5 lies and see that their tongue doesn't turn black, and they're going to know that they've lied to. It's funny how sometimes to insist upon the truth or insist upon a behavior, we lie about it. No one can look you in the eye and lie. So I remember people that do interrogations, police and FBI and such, people will do weird things with their bodies when they're lying. They often look to the side or they look around or they can't maintain eye contact and lie. A very, very well-versed liar has no trouble looking you in the eye and lying. So sometimes your body language does absolutely give away the fact that you're lying, but to say that you can't look someone in the eye and lie gives the person lying to you permission to do just that, because they'll look at you and tell a lie and you'll think, oh, well, they can't be lying because they're looking at me in the eye. I know somebody with a good conscience, if you say, look me in the eye and tell me that's true. If it's not, it's much harder to do that when you've been asked to be honest with somebody. The remaining ones I have are just kind of funny, and some of them lend themselves to different things and bigger things. Frisky cows are just giving each other piggyback rides. So if you've ever looked out your window and seen 2 cats going at it or 2 dogs going at it, it's pretty obvious they're not giving each other piggybacks. Sometimes I think that might be a way to explain something that a child is too young to understand. Is it a lie? Of course. Well, that one cow is giving a piggyback to the other. It just involves a little vaginal penetration. Everything. My friend Jack said everything was a lie. And then the whole thread on that was, well, you were a gullible kid. And we were lied to a lot about a lot of things, but I think every generation can give you their list of lies, Gracie's Build-A-Bear lie. And then some of them have a hint or an overtone of something more serious. One of the people in my community wrote, an autonomous school board is a good thing. That's a lie that we've been told. So my school board right now is under a lot of scrutiny for really ignoring what the voters want. And so there's all this autonomy challenging going on and everything else. So I got a kick out of that one. I wrote back, that was a good one. Oh, this was one like I got like 12 responses. When a pet dies, they don't tell you your pet died. They say, we gave it to a family at a farm. So we had a dog named Timmy, and Timmy started biting people. It was a German Shepherd. And so we had to put him down. I actually thought we gave him away for years and years and years. And no, we did not give him away to a farm in upstate New York. If you live in New England, that's every pet that actually died went to a farm in upstate New York. So I had people whose hamsters and gerbils and rabbits and cats and dogs all went to a farm. And I think that was to, again, though, death happens. It's what happens. It's a part of life. And we think little kids can't handle it. I'll tell you, as heart-wrenching as it would be to know that your pet had either been put down or was dead, there are ways to share that in an honest way that doesn't involve a farm in upstate New York. So that was a really common one. Oh, this little girl was told that her hair straightener would bite her. So only mom could use it. You can't use it because it will bite you if you touch it. And so she didn't really believe her. So she grabbed it to prove a point. And of course it burned her. And so she had to drop it. And so had the mother just said, it's really, really hot, don't pick it up, maybe she wouldn't have been burned. And then there were a couple that were really ominous, and we'll get into these in future episodes. One was, what you just saw did not happen. And I was told that what I just did to you didn't happen. This is not what you think just happened to you didn't. Oh, okay. Who we just spent the weekend with wasn't true. This is where we really were. So that can be much more insidious. The friend of mine that shared this, we've talked at length about some of the ways we're manipulated as children. And another one, life gets better. So I don't know that that's a lie so much as a comfort, because life can get better. I don't ever say to Gracie, life will get better. I often say to her, there will be times that life won't feel as bad. There are often times people will say to me, does grief get better? I don't feel like my grief is any better around Molly now than it was the day she died. It's not as intense. It doesn't consume me. The panic has dissipated. It's changed form. It's much more easily manageable. So I suppose I could say that's better, except I don't feel better. So life gets better. Is my life better today than it was May 8th, 2016? In some ways, absolutely. In other ways, it's just as chaotic and terrifying and heart-wrenching. This was my 3, 2, 1 go on lies you were told as a kid. I would love you, when you listen to this episode, to go onto my Instagram or go wherever you listen to the podcast, share some of your lies in there. I'm always trying to push engagement, listener engagement. I have wonderful listeners who are reluctant to share sometimes. The small group of you that do, thank you so much. So yeah, there are some fun games. There are games sometimes on social media, computer games, online games, where you read 3 statements and you have to decide which one is not true. And then, it's on Regis and Kelly, I think. Somebody says 3 things about somebody and you have to pick out the one that isn't true. So maybe they were a guest the day before and they told the whole story. So something on there isn't accurate, or you have to say the one that is. We are definitely a culture, and I think it's humanity in general, a society, a species that has the ability to lie. We have a brain that can contemplate its own existence. A dog can't lie. A dog will show up at the door, wagging its tail and running around in circles and licking you because in the kitchen is the garbage strewn all over. They know they've done something wrong and they will try to distract you. But a dog can't make up an untruth, because I think I did see once on a Facebook page around pets of a dog who had chewed up a shoe and then put the chewed up shoe in the dog bed of the other dog. So that's a dog that absolutely knew what a lie was and knew how to make that happen. So that's it. So that's my introduction to season 10, which is lies we're told, or lies people tell, or lies we believe. And the we is all of us. The we is me, the we is you, the we is the lie teller, the we is the lie receiver, and then vice versa. The we is culture, the we is TV, the we is Photoshop, the we is Snapchat filter. There are so many ways human beings manipulate the truth and manipulate fact and reality. And we do it so regularly that it's easy for it to be used in really damaging ways. And I think lots of political issues that are on the front lines right now will lend into this. Episode 162, episode 1 of season 10, lies people tell or lies people believe. I don't know. I know my editor and I will come up with the perfect title for the season, but it's all about lying and how nebulous and gray honesty and truth can be. That's how it is. So anyway, be good to yourself. Look in the mirror and be honest. Or take a picture of yourself with a really great Snapchat filter so you feel good about yourself. Then be good to someone else. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Hey, thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. Feel free to leave a review and share my stories with your friends. Please reach out with your own stories, as I love connecting with my listeners. If you would like to get to know Molly, head over to mollybfoundation.org to see what she is all about. If you want to see what I'm up to next, you can find me on Instagram at barb_444, on Facebook as Barb Higgins, and at my website, 1000tinysteps.com. And while you're there, sign up for my newsletter, a weekly way to find out what's up in the life of Barb Higgins.